My name is Rocco, and I'm just another cockroach. I saw her for the first time at the bend of a drain pipe. The shimmer of water made her stand out. The other roaches had dark brown carapaces, but hers was silver gray with a fine, metallic sheen. She was delicately grooming her antennae with her forelegs, a sight so beautiful it made me forget I was out looking for food. "Had enough of a look?" she asked, suddenly turning toward me. I scrambled backward, my 6 legs tangling. "Sorry, I was just what?" She crawled closer, and I could smell the damp moss on her. "You have anything to eat?" I immediately remembered the breadcrumb I'd found in the human's kitchen. It was supposed to be my food for the next few days. But when she asked, I didn't hesitate. I pointed a foreleg behind me. "A little. Over there. After that, I want to see her every day." Her name was Stella, and she was always complaining. She complained about the dampness, the dim light, the fact that she never got to eat fresh food. "Humans have it so good," she'd often say, tilting her head toward the faint light filtering through a drain grate. "They live in dry, bright places with more food than they could ever eat. They aren't born destined to be squashed. But we're free." I try to comfort her. "We can go wherever we want." "Big deal," she said, turning her back to me. "You're still a cockroach." I pushed the piece of a chocolate chip cookie I'd found today in front of her. She glanced at it, less eager than usual. "More of this junk." "A human kid dropped it," I said. "It's really sweet." She finally took a small bite. As she chewed, her silver-gray carapace gleamed faintly in the dark. I watched her and thought that even the dripping of the drain pipe sounded beautiful. "I wish I could be human," she said suddenly. "Even just for a day." My antennae quivered. "That's impossible. Rocco, I think about it all the time." She turned to face me, her compound eyes reflecting my silhouette. If I had a choice, I would never have chosen to be born a cockroach. It was the first time she had ever said my name. I fell silent. I thought of the elder, the wisest of all of us in the nest. Maybe he had a way. I scurried past the dense crowd of my kind and found the elder's hollow. The nest was piled high with food scraps offered up by the others, and the complex smell made my head spin. "I can do it, but—" The elder's antennae swayed slowly. "Do you know the cost?" "Whatever it takes," I said quickly. The elder made a sound like a sigh. "The altar requires a sacrifice. Everything you have stored." I thought of the little crevice where I'd stashed my savings from the last 6 months. Stray rice grains, spilled sugar, dried up bits of cheese. In the cockroach world, it was a fortune. Without it, I'd probably starve next winter. "Can she become human?" I asked. "Yes, but she will lose her memory. She will forget everything about this place and become a completely different being." An image of Stella gazing at the light flashed in my mind. The bitterness in her voice when she said, "You're still a cockroach." "Okay," I said, gritting my mandibles. "I hope you don't regret this." When I led Stella to the altar, her antennae were trembling with excitement. "Can I really become a human?" she asked for the 6th time. The elder said so. I guided her through the last narrow passage. The altar was just a dry patch of concrete, marked with complex patterns drawn by the elder. My food was piled in the center, the stash I had carried and hidden piece by piece, now giving off a tempting aroma in the darkness. Stella didn't even look at the food. Her eyes were fixed on the center of the pattern, waiting for a miracle. The elder began to chant, and the food on the altar withered and vanished before our eyes. Stella's body started to glow, her silver-gray form turning translucent. "Rocco!" she suddenly cried out. I rushed to her side. "What is it?" "Thank you for making my dream come true. I'll never forget you." Her voice started to sound strange, as if coming from far away. "Of course," I shouted, my own voice trembling with excitement. "When you're human, I'll find you." She seemed to smile, but the light consumed her completely. The final flash was so bright I had to shut my eyes. When I could see again, the altar was empty. The food was gone. Stella was gone. The elder stopped chanting. "It is done." Did it work?" "She has inhabited the body of a recently deceased human," the elder said. "Go and see her world. But remember, keep your distance. You have nothing now, and you and she are no longer of the same world." I nodded. It took me 3 days to find her. Chapter 2, I crawled up the sewer line to the bathroom, squeezing through the floor drain. And I saw her again. Stella. She was standing in front of the mirror, combing her long, wet hair that cascaded down to her waist. Her skin was pale, like a pristine flower that had never touched the mud. Zaralang. The elder had told me that was her name now. She was humming a strange little tune, nothing like the rustling of our carapaces. It was the sound of a human song. I crawled a few steps forward, wanting a closer look. I wanted to see if her eyes still held that same longing for the light. I want to know if she still remembered the taste of cookie crumbs. Aya! A piercing scream shot through my eardrums. Before I could react, she pointed a trembling, frantic finger at me. A roach. There's a roach. Her face was twisted in disgust. It was a look I'd seen on many human faces, a mixture of revulsion and fear, as if she were looking at the foulest thing in the world. Stella. I tried to make sound. But how could a human understand the language of a cockroach? The world became a dark, thundering boom as the soul of a flip-flop came crashing down. I dragged my half-shattered wing and fled back to the nest. My left foreleg was useless, and one of my antennae was snapped. Every movement felt like my body was tearing itself apart. My wretched state quickly drew the attention of the other roaches. They crowded around, their antennae curiously prodding my wounds. Got swatted by a human? Serves you right. What were you doing up there? You're lucky you can still move. I squeezed into my own hollow. It was once full of food, but now it was empty, filled only with dust. I curled up, my broken antenna twitching uncontrollably. The elder arrived sooner than I expected. You saw her. I managed to twitch my good antenna in confirmation. She hit you. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. The elder was silent for a long time. I said nothing. Do you regret it? He finally asked. I pictured her sitting in a bright room, eating a whole cookie, her beautiful eyes curving into crescents. Then I pictured her in the bathroom, raising the flip-flop, her face etched with loathing. No regrets, I said, though my voice came out as a hoarse rasp. She doesn't remember you, the elder said. She's human now, and humans hate cockroaches. It's in their bones. I pushed myself up. Is there a way for me to become human too? The elder sighed, shaking his head. I can only perform the transformation once in my lifetime. I cannot help you. A sharp pain shot through my wounds, but it was nothing compared to the ache in my chest. I remembered her last words before she vanished. She said she would never forget me. Did she lie? No, I couldn't believe that. Elder, I said, what if I just want her to remember? To remember everything. Can you do that? It's possible, the elder hesitated, but the price is even greater than the transformation. I'll pay any price. I need more food. The elder's compound eyes glinted in the dark. Not just yours. The entire stockpile of your family. All your dozens of brothers and sisters. I froze. The family meeting was held in the largest crevice. 37 of my brothers and sisters crowded together, trying to talk me out of it. Are you insane? My oldest brother spoke first. Do you know how long it took us to save that food? Winter is almost here. She isn't Stella anymore. She doesn't know you. My second sister touched one of my wounds with her foreleg. She almost killed you, Rocco. But she wasn't like that before. I tried to explain. She's Stella. She just forgot. Forgetting is forgetting, my third brother cut in. She's a human now. Humans see us and want to crush us. It's instinct. Even if you make her remember, so what? It will only make her miserable. Their voices blended together. We have to survive, too. She's living a good life now. Don't you get it? It'll never work out between you two. Just give up. Listening to them. I remembered when we were small, huddled together, sharing a single grain of rice, none of us daring to take too much. My oldest brother would always leave the biggest piece for me, saying I was still growing. My second sister would be the first to scout for danger when a human sprayed poison, coming back with her antennae dusted white. And now I was asking them for all their food. For her. For someone who didn't even remember me. I'm sorry, I said. All the roaches fell silent, waiting. I know this is selfish, I said, slowly pushing myself up. But I have to try one more time. She promised she would remember me. There was a long silence. My oldest brother was the first to turn and crawl away, his silhouette looking heavy in the narrow passage. Then my second sister, my third brother, my fourth sister. One by one, they left in silence. I thought it was over. But half an hour later, my oldest brother returned, dragging a small pile of cookie crumbs. He pushed it in front of me, his antennae drooping. This is all I have. Then came my second sister, carrying a few dried grains of rice. Then the third, the fourth, all 37 of my siblings, each dragging what they had from their hiding spots. Some had very little, others a bit more. Piled together, it formed a tiny mountain in our hollow. My second sister touched my good antenna with a foreleg. If this doesn't work, we'll get through the winter together. But this is the last time, Rocco, my oldest brother said, his voice grave. Don't be a fool for her ever again. I looked at the pile of food, my eyes stinging. It was our family's hope for the entire winter. And now it was about to become fuel for a ritual to awaken the memory of a human who might never look back at me. Thank you, I said, the words caught in my throat. The elder began the preparations. My brothers and sisters gathered around, none of them speaking. 37 pairs of compound eyes watched me in the darkness, filled with helplessness, reluctance, and worry, but not a trace of resentment. The altar began to glow. Chapter 3. After the light from the altar faded, I lay in the nest for 3 days. My broken wing was healing, new tissue pushing out from the cracks, tender and painful to the touch. My siblings took turns bringing me food, pitifully small scraps. They must have kept nothing for themselves. On the 4th day, my oldest brother nudged me awake with his antenna. Number 17 saw her just now, he said. Ooh, that's Sarah Lang. My brother's eyes reflected my own battered image. She was sitting on a park bench downtown, just staring into space. I couldn't stop myself. As soon as I heard where she was, I set out. A park bench was a dangerous, open space for me. The grass hid birds, and the pavement could bring a human foot down at any moment. But I went anyway, hiding in the shadow beneath the bench. Sarah Lang was sitting on it. She was wearing a white sundress. Men would walk past and turn their heads to look at her, but she didn't notice. She was just staring at her own hands, her eyes vacant. I carefully climbed up one of the bench legs. When I was about 2 feet away, she moved. She turned her head, and her eyes landed directly on me. For a second, I thought she would scream again. I thought a shoe would come crashing down. I was already tensing my legs to jump and flee. But she didn't scream. She just stared at me, her eyes slowly widening. Something was waking up inside those beautiful pupils. It seemed she really did remember. I saw her lips tremble, her fingers clutching the fabric of her dress. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock, and from shock to revulsion, like she was looking at her own filthy, shameful past. It's you, she said. The altar's power allowed me to understand her, just as she could now understand me. Stella, I tried to respond, my voice barely a whisper. Don't call me that name. She shot up, shaking the bench. I'm not a cockroach. I am sort alone. I'm a person. Other people in the park glanced over. Realizing she had shouted, she sat back down, her body rigid. She glared down at me, and her look reminded me of the arrogant way she used to groom her antennae when we first met. Only now it was mixed with hatred. What did you do to me? I had forgotten everything, she hissed, forcing the words through clenched teeth. Those disgusting memories, crawling in a drain pipe, eating moldy cookie crumbs. With all of you, she couldn't continue, her face deathly pale. I just wanted you to remember who you were. And who I am, I said. Who wants to remember that? Her voice rose again. That's the biggest stain on my life. I'm a person. I was born to be a person, not one of you filthy, disgusting things. She reached into her purse. I recognized the motion. It was what humans did when they were looking for something to kill a roach with. Get away from me, she stared at me, her eyes as cold as ice. You served your purpose. You shouldn't have shown up again. I'm going to smash you into a pulp. It wasn't a shoe she pulled out of her bag. It was a book. She raised it high and brought it down right on top of me. Stella, I leaped from the bench leg. The edge of the book grazed my back, cracking my barely healed carapace again. I didn't look back. I scrambled for the grass, my 6 legs pumping desperately. Filthy thing, she yelled after me. Don't you ever let me see you again. Ever. My oldest brother was waiting for me at the entrance to the sewer when I returned. He didn't ask a thing. Seeing me covered in a fresh set of injuries, he just touched my back with his antenna and said, Winter's coming. Come home. A cold draft was starting to blow in from the pipe opening. The nest was empty. My 37 brothers and sisters were huddled together for warmth, their antennae drooping. I was too ashamed to stay. I turned to crawl back out. Where are you going? My brother asked. To find food. It's raining out there. I didn't turn back. The rain washed the filth of the human world into the sewers. I crept along the edge of the grimy water, searching for anything edible, a piece of rotten lettuce, a scrap of soggy paper, the occasional grain of rice washed down from the street. The water was cold, and my wounds stung, but I couldn't stop. My siblings were hungry, the little ones were chirping, and it was all because of my ridiculous fantasy. I thought Sarah would be grateful. I thought if she remembered, she would at least smile at me. But when you lift someone to a height they could never reach on their own, while you remain where you are, you create a chasm that can never be crossed. She wouldn't be grateful. She would see my sacrifice as her greatest shame, because it would always remind her that she was once just a cockroach. I went out for food every day. I never found much, barely enough for each of my siblings to have a bite. On the 8th day, when the weather warmed up, I was so thin my carapace fell hollow. My oldest brother blocked my path as I was about to leave again. "That's enough," he said. "It's not enough." I dodged his antenna. "I still owe all of you so much." Before he could say more, I cut him off. "I'm going to that building to the east," I said. "I heard there's a hotel. Humans drop snacks there all the time." He didn't stop me this time. There was a wedding in the building today. I climbed the outer wall to a third-floor windowsill and peeked through a crack. The ballroom was full of humans in beautiful clothes, and the music was so loud my carapace vibrated. Then I saw her, Zaralang. She was wearing a long white gown, her hair swept up, her hands adorned with sparkling jewelry. She was holding the arm of a human male, a smile fixed on her face. It was a perfect smile, the corners of her mouth turned up just so, her eyes narrowed into a perfect arc. She looked completely, purely human. Not a trace of the cockroach remained. When the groom put the ring on her finger, she lowered her head and smiled, her profile soft and beautiful in the light. The guests applauded. She and the groom kissed, and the room erupted in cheers. I clung to the windowsill, watching silently. I watched for a long time, until the wedding ended, the crowd dispersed, and the staff began clearing the tables. She and the groom stood at the door, seeing guests off, her smile never faltering. After the last guest left, her shoulders sagged slightly. She said something to the groom, and then walked toward the restroom alone. I followed her, not because I wanted to see her, but because I needed to confirm one thing. In the restroom, she stood before the mirror, touching up her makeup. Halfway through applying her lipstick, she stopped and stared at her reflection. The smile vanished. The corners of her mouth drooped, and something turbulent churned in her eyes. She raised a hand and stared at her own fingers for a long, long time. Then she violently twisted the faucet on and began to wash her hands. Frantically, over and over, scrubbing until her skin was red, as if trying to remove some indelible stain. After the third time, she looked up at the mirror. Her eyes were red. "I'm not a cockroach," she whispered to her reflection. "I'm a person. I'm Sarah Lang." She repeated it several times like a mantra. Then she took a deep breath, forced the perfect smile back onto her face, finished her lipstick, and walked out of the restroom. The clicking of her high heels echoed on the tile floor, growing fainter and fainter. I stayed in the air vent for a while longer. When the sound was completely gone, I turned and crawled back to my sewer. On the way back to the nest, I saw a silver cockroach foraging for food. Her carapace was pale, and she looked a lot like Stella did. It was clear she hadn't eaten in a long time. Her eyes were fixated on the breadcrumb I was carrying. "Hey, spare a piece?" "I haven't eaten in days," she chirped. I ignored her. "If you want something, go find it yourself. I'm not obligated to feed you." I heard her stomp her legs in frustration, but what did that have to do with me? When I got back, my siblings were already asleep. I put the food I'd found in our shared crevice and squeezed into my own corner. The wounds still ached, but the pain kept me sharp. At least I wouldn't make the same mistake again. From now on, I would only be good to my family. Epilogue: my name was Stella, but now it's Sarah Lang. Right now, I'm sitting in the defendant's chair, completely lost as to how things ended up this way. The judge's mouth is moving. First-degree murder, special circumstances, sentence to death. I didn't hear any of it clearly. All I remember is the warmth of the blood as it splattered on my hand. I remember my husband's eyes were still open as he fell, his face a mask of disbelief. Our marriage was a calculation from the very beginning. He only got close to me for my family's money. I was too stupid, too trusting, and it led to the ruin of my entire family. The solitary confinement cell is small. To the person I am now, it's not much bigger than the drain pipe, but it's clean. Too clean. White walls, white bed, white toilet. No mos, no miedo. I used to hate filth. Now I hate clean. Because clean means there's nothing. No sound, no other living thing, just the echo of my own breathing. I'm left here in this room to slowly, quietly rot. On the 43rd day of my confinement, I saw it. In a crack in a corner of the wall, a dark brown carapace. Long, thin antennae, 6 legs moving cautiously. It was a cockroach. I sat up, the iron bed frame groaning. It immediately froze, antennae erect, ready to bolt. "Don't be scared," I said. "I'm not going to hit you again." It didn't move. We stared at each other from 10 feet apart. Its compound eyes reflected the light from the cell's ceiling fixture, 1,000 tiny, shattered images of me. "Are you Rocco?" I asked. In my heart, I knew it wasn't. The roach named Rocco was long gone, chased away by me, hit with a book, and scarred with the ugliest words I could conjure. He would never appear before me again. But in that moment, how I wished it was him. The cockroach in the corner began to move. It crept along the base of the wall, tentatively moving a little closer, then retreating, its antennae waving nervously. I once loved to carefully groom my antennae with my forelegs, to make myself look as clean as possible. Rocco had been watching me from a corner, his 6 legs tripping over each other in shyness. "Had enough of a look? Sorry, I was just what? You have anything to eat?" And then Rocco had offered me a huge breadcrumb. I covered my face and began to sob. These were the memories I had desperately tried to scrub away, to deny. The feeling of safety in the darkness, the satisfaction of sharing a crumb of food, the simplicity of a life without suspicion or schemes. Was the human world really as wonderful as I had imagined? Everyone wears a mask. A knife is hidden behind every smile. When my husband told me he loved me, he was calculating my net worth. When he kissed me, he was planning how to burden me with debt and leave me for dead. It was all less real than a piece of moldy bread. At least that crumb came with all of Rocco's sincere heart. The cockroach crept closer, stopping at the foot of my bed and looking up at me. "I regret it," I said. "If I had known the human world was like this, I would have rather stayed a cockroach." I slid off the bed and collapsed, weeping. At least as a cockroach, there weren't so many dark schemes. You could crawl around freely, no high heels, no makeup, no fake smiles for everyone. It tilted its head. I reached out a hand to touch it, but my fingers stopped in midair. I was afraid it would run away, just like Rocco, and never come back. "I'm sorry," I choked out between sobs. "I shouldn't have hit you with the book. I shouldn't have, after remembering everything, made my first impulse to erase it all. As if by erasing that memory, I could become a pure, true human. How stupid. Rocco was 1,000 times more genuine than my husband. If he disliked someone, he would just stay away. He wouldn't hold you and tell you he loved you, only to push you off a cliff. If I could do it all over again, I was sobbing too hard to speak. If I could do it all over again, I would have taken that piece of bread and said thank you. If I could do it all over again, I would have never gone to the altar. If I could do it all over again, I would have stayed as Stella, living out my days in the drain pipe, sharing every last crumb I found with him. The cockroach suddenly turned and scurried back the way it came. I panicked. "Don't go." Of course it didn't listen. It was just an ordinary cockroach that had wandered into a prison cell and happened across my path. My quiet sobs turned into raw, guttural wails, as if trying to purge a year's worth of pretense, repression, and regret. The sound slammed against the walls of the cell, so loud and soul-shattering that I didn't even hear the guard running over, banging on the door and shouting at me. I just cried. It was gone. Maybe it would never come back. And I had to remain in this clean, empty cell, waiting for the day of my execution. I could taste my own tears. They were nothing but bitter.